Hello, this is Crispin Flintoff from Not the Andrew Marr Show. Before this video starts, I'd just like to ask if you'd subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because we will be covering the general election from a totally different perspective from what you get from the mainstream media. We'll be talking about the candidates who are taking on Labour and the Tories and pushing them all the way. So please subscribe and get updates. So Feltham and Heston, you were a Labour councillor for decades.
Well, actually 30 years, right, as a Labour councillor, and 40 years as a Labour member till March. And I've served as deputy leader, served as mayor, and almost every other position under the sun except for leader. So really, my journey has been long because I joined the Labour Party in the Margaret Thatcher years back in 1984. You remember those calls,
You don't
Margaret
look old
Thatcher,
enough.
milk snatcher.
You don't look old enough, Amrit. Go on, carry on.
Well, thank you, Kristen. You're too kind. But I've got a large chunk of shares in the oil of Ulay.
All right.
No, but in reality, I think that the Labour Party that I joined is not the Labour Party that is currently there. And you've seen that they've lost their moral compass. And I think that once a party moves away from the reason why it started, then really no longer is that party. And certainly we've seen with Tony Blair, and we've seen now in a extreme version through Keir Starmer, that it's a party that doesn't stand for any of his core values. It doesn't stand for the poor, it doesn't stand for the working class. Yeah, it doesn't stand for students, doesn't stand for workers. I can't think what it stands for. And when George Galloway talks about you couldn't put a sixpence between Tories and Labour, he's absolutely true. Because I go on the doorstep and people speak to me and say, what does the Labour Party stand for? And you know what? I don't have an answer for it. Right. So when I left, yeah, in fact, in some ways, I was pleased because I was out of the shackles of the chief whip, where I could say things and actually, square my conscience, right? So now what's happening in Gaza. I don't need to tell you, but it's abhorrent, and I think humanity needs to hang his head in shame. There was a uh, in the paper Daily Telegraph, I think it was, where Anil Prabhakar, he's a well-renowned photographer. He was taking a picture of an orangutan, and he fell into a quagmire which was full of snakes and other nasties. The actual orangutan put his hand out to help him out. And I'm thinking to myself, this is an animal, but we have humans that are actually throwing huge, high explosives onto tents on kids' birthday parties, right? We are not fit to call ourselves humans. That's how I feel deep down in the heart, right? The way things are, because I've got two small kids. When I look at those kids in Gaza, they could be my kids, they could be your kids, they could be anybody's kids. And the fact that we're certainly in the Labour parties, nobody's saying anything. Yesterday I was at the mayor making where the new mayor took over. I first of all congratulated her, and then I asked her, as the first citizen, as a mother, as a councillor, that if she could just speak up for the atrocities that are happening in Gaza, right? Because there are people who have no voice, and yeah, I was poo-pooed. So that's why I'm out of the Labour Party, and why I'm in with George Galloway. When I look around, there isn't anybody that I see that's making a big enough impact and taking a big stand, right? Where they're actually speaking and telling the things, the factual things as they are. And a lot of people have been won over by the straight talking George Galloway. And I was very happy to join George. I was his first UK councillor. So he was the first Workers' Party MP, and I was the first Workers' Party councillor because I shifted from Labour to Workers' Party. And my colleagues in Hounslow, they're still nodding dogs to the same old that has been going on, which has been reinforced by the whips.
Now, Just what about the Feltham and Heston? I mean, Seema Malhotra is the MP there. She's got quite a big majority, and Labour's had that seat for a long time. What's the chances of you winning there?
Well, every MP stands up or should stand up to serve the public, and my sister Seema has actually neglected that particular ethos. So, she's upset certainly the Muslim community by not supporting Gaza ceasefire, by abstaining. And prior to that, you remember some time ago, 2 years ago, there was a huge farmers' protest that was happening in Punjab about the exploitation of the farmers and where they're not making any money. And now that's actually spread to Germany, France, and all over Europe, right? But it started in Punjab, and it was the biggest tractor. It was the biggest tractor protest in the whole world. I spoke to Seema and said, Seema, we need to, if you're not happy with this, just stay quiet. But no, she went on. She was against it, and she went on to Lavina Tandon, chat with Lavina. Then Lavina went on to BBC to sort of slate these guys, and a lot of the narrative, the negative narrative, right, around the farmers was that they're all terrorists, right? So basically, she alienated in one clean swoop all the Punjabi community, and in Feltham and Heston, the two large communities are the Muslim community and also the Punjabi community. If you look at the dynamics of it, Alan Keane was always par in Feltham's side. He didn't win, he didn't lose, but he held his own. Seema has continually lost in Feltham, and she made up that deficit by winning in the Heston and the Cranford side of things. I think she's going to have extreme difficulty in this current climate.
Well, you're being quite guarded in your comment there, but I think that means that you think you might have a good chance.
There is always a good chance, when we stand, in politics, when we stand, we stand to win. I'm standing to win. As to how far successful I am down that road, only time will tell. But certainly, Seema hasn't helped herself, and the Labour Party hasn't helped by taking a bizarre stand, right, on Gaza. Everybody can see what the truth is, and I can't understand why, for the life of me, Keir Starmer is talking completely down a different road.
Yeah. So how are you with your campaign? I mean, where are you? Have you got an office? Have you done a leaflet yet? How are you doing?
We've done a leaflet. We've started actually delivering leaflets. I think as a new party, we have some teething problems. It's simply because of the logistics side of things, getting one leaflet out, getting another one in, and this sort of cyclic movement over the 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. We're going to find that it gets easier, but certainly to start off with, it's a bit slow. And to be honest with you, when we were doing, I won 8 elections as a councillor from the same ward. We had similar problems. So these are sort of not unsurmountable. We will do that. The office, I'm going to sign a lease in the next couple of days, and then that office will be set. We already had a launch where George Galloway turned up to Kingsway Tandoori in Hounslow West, and that was very well attended. And hopefully, what's it called? All his efforts and the efforts of all the people locally will see the day, and we'll say goodbye to Seema for good.